It's finally Friday.
It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
All right, welcome back to the Friday Show, presented by Woodbine Racetrack. I'm Scott Jagow, along with Ray Paulick. We're glad you can be with us. Coming up, we'll have a little update on our discussion last week about the Pegasus World Cup. But first, Ray, an intriguing case out of Oklahoma, where a trainer, one of her horses, was found to have a drug positive for Ritalin, a Class 1 drug. She was immediately suspended, but then she volunteered to take a polygraph test. The stewards agreed, administered the test, she passed, then they revoked the suspension until there is a hearing on the case. What do you think about this?
Well, I have to be completely honest with you here, Scott.
Please do.
I think it's bizarre. I only know of one other case of a polygraph test being administered in a medication violation hearing process, and that involved Daryl Vienna, a trainer who would go on to become an attorney to represent horsemen in cases like this. And in that case, Daryl was asked by the racing board in California to take a polygraph, and he agreed to do it. But he told me halfway through the process, he was upset with the line of questioning because he thought they were kind of badgering him to get him excited so that he would fail the test. He pulled the equipment off and walked off, and he said, "There's only one person in this room who knows the truth, and it's not you." So to me, for a racing commission to okay a polygraph test is very unusual. I frankly, I'm just kind of scratching my head over why they would do it, because we all know polygraph tests are not considered reliable enough to be admitted into criminal cases and that sort of thing.
Right. Only one state in the union actually allows the results of a polygraph test before a jury. That's New Mexico. The Supreme Court has said they are highly unreliable. And in practice, they've proven unreliable in many situations. Half a dozen or so spies who were convicted spies passed polygraph tests, including Aldrich Ames, who is serving a life sentence for espionage. They asked him how he passed 2 tests as a CIA agent. He said, "I got a good night's sleep. I came in relaxed. I established a rapport with the examiner and remained calm." That's it. That's how he passed the test. You know who else passed the polygraph test? Marion Jones, the track star who later admitted that she was doping. So she lied her way through a polygraph test. Rick Pitino just volunteered to take a polygraph test, and they asked him 2 questions, and he passed. Do you believe Rick Pitino is telling the truth about his knowledge of paying to get recruits at the University of Louisville? I don't.
Well, I don't know the trainer in this case, but I do know a lot of trainers. And I think that a lot of trainers sometimes convince themselves of what the truth is when what they are saying to someone really isn't the truth. In other words, kind of like what Barry Irwin said after he won the Kentucky Derby, why does he change trainers? And he said they all lie. Well, I think that if you lie a lot, you get a lot of practice, you might be convincing at it. And I'm not saying that's the case here, because I don't know the trainer. I don't really know that much about the case. But, I think if you get a lot of practice at it, you might be able to convince yourself and pass a lie detector test.
Yeah, I think the first red flag is when somebody volunteers to take a polygraph test. You have to take a step back and go, why are they doing that? Now, in this case, as you point out, she could very well be telling the truth. There have been cases where a horse tests positive, the trainer knows nothing about it, it turns out. However, the rule is that it is her responsibility no matter what. So this polygraph thing seems to be some sort of sideshow that I don't understand, given what we've just talked about, the unreliability. I don't understand the motive for the commission to do this, for the stewards to allow this to happen. What if she had failed the test? Then they're going to say, okay, the suspension is still in place. If she fails, this happens. If she passes, this happens. I mean, honestly, that's really absurd.
Wouldn't we all want to give some lie detector tests to people in racing? I mean, just imagine you could eliminate post-race testing. You could eliminate stewards hearings, just give them a lie detector test and see if the jockeys were really trying as hard as they were supposed to in a race. See if a trainer did something he was or wasn't supposed to do. I think it would be a great way to change the way we regulate the sport. Just give everybody a lie detector test.
Did we eat pot roast for dinner tonight?
Yes.
Was it undercooked?
No, it was rare. It was a little rare for my taste.
You know, the reason this has come out is I think because the stewards did a summary suspension, which is until we can hear the evidence in the case, you are suspended because we think this is a serious medication violation. And we're starting to see more and more of these summary suspensions where people lose their ability to make a living before they get their day in court. And I think that's something that, you know, we all demand, you know, quick results from these cases and all that. But, you know, we don't want to be too quick to judge because they're basically with a summary suspension saying you're guilty. We're going to give you a chance to prove have your day in court, but until then you're guilty. And I'm not sure that's the right approach.
Well, you know, it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But again, the court system in the United States has over and over again said polygraphs are not reliable. So I don't understand why that's being inserted into the equation here. What do you think? Should lie detector tests be used as part of the process, the adjudication of drug testing in horse racing or other violations of other sorts? We have a poll on the website. Let us know your thoughts at PaulickReport.com. Last week, Ray, we talked about the Pegasus World Cup. We've had some new developments since then. Gunrunner, his connections have said he is pointing for the Pegasus. So whether or not he goes to stud after that is still up in the air, but he's going to be in the race as long as he stays healthy. And we've also heard a couple of Baffert's horses will probably be in the Pegasus. So we're getting some horses in anyway.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of a panic attack after because the Stronach Group hasn't come out and said, here's the number of slots that have been sold for the race. And when Arrogate's retirement after the Breeders' Cup was announced. So I think there were a lot of people saying, oh, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Well, $16 million is a lot of money. And if you've got a pretty decent horse and, you know, I think it's very contentious at the top when you take Arrogate out of the picture, the good Arrogate out of the picture. I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be an exciting race, and maybe it'd be a better race this year because you have more contention rather than just last year it was the big two, California Chrome and Arrogate.
Yeah, I still want to see, though, who those horses actually are that fill out the other slots, because if you look at the just look at the 3-year-olds, the ones that won the Classics, Always Dreaming is not going to be ready for that race. I don't think Cloud Computing is. I don't think Tappert is as well, in terms of where he is health-wise in getting back to the races. So you have to wonder, you know, where the other horses are going to come from. But I thought it was interesting that you chatted with Bob Baffert, and he mentioned he thinks that there is some, you know, pumping up of sales prices, both yearlings and 2-year-olds, because of the Pegasus World Cup. I thought that was a really interesting remark. Do you buy that?
It's something I hadn't really thought about. My belief has been that the Kentucky Derby has a lot to do with driving up prices. And of course, when yearling or 2-year-old buyers spend a lot of money on a horse, their hope used to be the only way to get their money back tenfold would be to have that horse go on to win Grade 1 races and become a stallion prospect and, you know, cut a deal with a stallion farm. Now you still have that option, but you also have an opportunity to win some serious money between, you know, this year being a $16 million race. Last year it was 12 rather. And that's, you know, $8, $9, $10 million of first place. That's a lot of money. And it gives yearling and 2-year-old buyers something to shoot for. And it may make them go an extra bid or two in going after a horse they think, or their trainer or their bloodstock advisor thinks is capable of going on to be a top-class racehorse.
I can buy that, and especially you talked about the Derby. The difference between the Derby and the Pegasus World Cup is 10, 12, $14 million in the terms of the purse. That's a lot more of an incentive financially. The Derby, of course, there's always the ego thing, or
The ego, yep.
just everybody wants to be in the Derby. But the purse is nowhere near the Pegasus World Cup. So I buy the fact that people, maybe even new owners getting into the game are going, hey, I'll spend some money on horses I think have a chance to get into that race, because if I can win that thing, I'm getting $10 million back. The one concern I have, though, is new owners getting to the game, spending too much money on a small amount of horses, and instead of spreading out and giving themselves the best chance to succeed. Because I believe that some of the owners who come in and they just throw money and they don't have the knowledge and they don't give themselves an out, they end up being discouraged and quitting. So that's the only thing I'm concerned about.
Yeah, that's a legitimate concern, and that's actually a subject for another day to examine what goes through someone's mind when they first start buying horses and they're spending millions of dollars for just a couple horses. To me, it doesn't make sense.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show, presented by Woodbine Racetrack. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.